This segment has been sponsored by Pro Bikes Caribe. Pro Bikes Caribe, get yours today. Greetings, listenership. Welcome to TLC, Tropical Literature Creatives, the podcast where we interview authors of Caribbean heritage about themselves and about their literary works. Today we have with us the versatile Virginia Archer, also known by her real name as Jean Metric. Jean, also known as Virginia, welcome to Tropical Literature Creators.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thank you for agreeing to be interviewed. Jean, do you hail from the island of St. Lucia?
Well, not originally. My father is a St. Lucian, and I've lived here since I was 9 years old. I was actually born in the UK.
Ah,
Where my dad did the whole banana boat Windrush thing when he was 16
mhm.
and went over to the UK, and his mom was already there. Met up with my mom, and the rest is history. And so I've lived here since I was 9. So I'm more St. Lucian than British at this point. I did go back for a few years for university, but yeah, most of my life I've lived right here.
All right. I always try to give this scenario to persons. Imagine we encounter each other at the airport. I'm coming to St. Lucia for the very first time. What would you recommend that I try if I visit St. Lucia, whether it's a food, a drink, a place, anything? What would you recommend that I try?
Hmm. I guess people always swear by the national dish, which is green fig and saltfish. I must admit it's not my personal favorite, but I mean I think everybody has to stand by their national dish, and it's my mom's favorite. She actually had it for lunch yesterday, so and she's British and she loves it, so it must be something really good about it.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
definitely the national dish.
okay,
And if you had to go to somewhere, definitely Soufriere. Do the whole tourist thing. Go to the sulfur baths and the whole, go see the volcano because it's amazing.
so I mean, in addition to persons who are good at writing poetry, St. Lucia has offerings in terms of dishes, cuisine, and also, natural attractions. Very, very nice.
Yeah, definitely does.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about your book. Let me see, and I just don't want to get the name incorrectly because I have it written down. How,
How to forget to breathe,
how
right?
to forget to breathe. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So tell me a
Yeah,
little.
that's my last book. So I've actually written 4 books of poetry, self-published 4 books.
Ah,
And How to Forget to Breathe was my last one that I published. Um, I've got other stuff in the works, so hopefully I'll be publishing again soon. But for now, that's where I am. And How to Forget to Breathe is really a collection. I mean, I say it has a lot of nature poems, a lot of, I always say, Tabanka type love poems. the,
you see that one?
the Trinis will get that.
Yeah, I'm Trini. I get that. I get that. So I thought it was a Trini thing, but the other islands use it, so I like to see
Yeah, we do.
moving
We use
on.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's that kind of stuff. It's interwoven with mostly freestyle pieces, but I also love a lot of form poetry, especially English sonnets, Shakespearean sonnets. And so I dabble in a lot of other things. I also do a lot of other forms outside of what I've done in the book, but I generally write freestyle, but I do enjoy dabbling with form.
Okay, I mean that's interesting. You don't hear sonnets often.
No, but I mean, I've actually won twice now, quite a prestigious competition in the States where every year they do this thing in April called the Winter Park Paint Out in it's held in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And on a website that I'm a member of, we get to write to the paintings. So it's like an ekphrastic tape type exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And I've found that it's generally easier to write a sonnet to that for me personally rather than a freestyle piece. And I've actually won the competition twice with sonnets, and it gets judged by, I think the last time was whoever was the state laureate at the time of Florida. So it's been good to be part of those type of competitions and to push myself in doing them. But I don't know what it is about the English sonnet. Maybe it's the English side of me, but I really love doing English sonnets.
Well, I like that. I like how you have different writing styles, one, and two, how you enter the competition to challenge yourself and to become better. And it's really quite an encouragement to know that the form of writing that you've chosen is what would have helped you win that competition. It's your strength. Your
Yes,
sonnets are a strong point.
yes. Well, yeah, probably. I think it just for me it just lends itself when you see a painting to write. I mean, I'm also an artist, so you can probably see some of my art behind me. So I like that merge of the painting and the art. Just kind of appeals to me, yeah.
Ah, excellent, excellent. You said that your works were self-published. I mean, how do you come across self-publishing? Is it something that you stumbled into? Is it something that you heard about? Or is it that you were doing research into getting your works published and you thought to yourself, this traditional publishing thing,
Yeah.
I'm just not feeling it. Which one was it?
I think these days it's fairly difficult to get your works noted, especially when you're in the Caribbean, to be noted by a publisher, a big publishing house. I know a lot of the St. Lucian writers here often get published by Peepal Tree Press, which is probably the one that publishes most of the St. Lucian authors.
Mm,
And I've actually done a competition with them. That's with John Robert Lee, who's, as you guys may know, is a Derek Walcott contemporary, and he's one of my mentors here, which is nice to have those guys around me, like Kendall Hippolyte and Jenkins Hippolyte and John
mhm,
Robert Lee. I mean, these guys are very inspirational to the rest of us who are writing. McDonald Dixon is another one. They're very helpful, especially to the up and coming poets community, which is nice. And so yeah, it's self-publishing I thought was the way to go. And I just kept on reading other different sites. And Lulu to me was one of the ones that just looked easier to actually upload your work and
yeah.
present it the way you want it presented. You know, you can upload your own artwork, you can design your own covers, you can do a lot of different things with them. And I just find their process is a lot simpler than maybe Amazon was at the time. So that's why I did that. And I also found it was easy to apply here with the Caribbean consulate to get your ISBN number, and you get like a set for a certain figure. I can't remember what it was, but I applied to the consulate. So I think it was at the time, and it probably still is in Guyana. And
Hmm.
then you get a list of ISBN numbers, and then you can just apply that. And it was very hands-on, and you can do it pretty easily yourself.
Are you an author full time?
No, I'm not an author full time. I just do it part time. My day job is that I'm a civil engineer
Oh,
and I run my own consulting company in St. Lucia. So that's the day job. I always say if poetry paid the bills, I wouldn't be an engineer, maybe. And I know it's a bit of a juxtaposition to do science and then write, right? A lot of people are kind of weirded out by that kind of juxtaposition of, but you're science-based, how are you doing poetry, but and how are you doing art? But yeah, it's that's the relaxation time for me. That's the fun time.
and
Yeah.
that's what I was getting to because the way that you described it and the way that you described it, I'm just seeing like I'm seeing a different side of it. Sure, it may be a form of relaxation, but at the
Mhm.
same time, to be practical on one hand, you need like a creative outlet, which I guess is where your
Right,
artistic side blossoms. But at the same
right,
time, a lot of persons who I talk to, when the topic of self-publishing comes along, they're saying that it's a challenging process, that it's technical, that there are details. So I'm imagining the challenge that most persons have, that you may not have that challenge, that it may just be, in a sense, it's like another technical or science experimental where it is you
Yeah, maybe you're right on that because I mean they send you a template and you follow the template and yeah, so I guess that's the science side of me, maybe. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
so
didn't think of it that way, but
no, but it makes sense from where I'm sitting. It makes sense. And that's why
yeah,
self-publishing may not be a challenge for you as how other persons describe that it may be a challenge. So
right.
yeah. So so
Okay.
so civil engineering actually is for the win. Uh, you'd mentioned that you have written four other books. Well, this is your fourth book so far.
Yeah.
Your other books, are they also poetry books, also sonnets?
Also poetry books, again, a mixture of as I said, freestyle, some form. Um, I've written quite a few, probably in the last two books, a form called like a haibun, which is where you write haiku and prose poetry intertwined. Yeah, not a form many people know, but again, it's challenging and it's just something to push you in different directions. So yeah.
I mean, again, I mean, I'm thinking it's a scientist in you. I mean, I'm learning about different types of literature as we're having as I'm having conversations with,
Conversations, yeah.
and here it is, you're combining, you're doing research into different kinds, and you're experimenting, and
Mhm.
yeah, you're a regular literary scientist if you know what
Well, if you want to put it that way, yeah.
way.
No, I mean, if I have to be honest, the most challenging thing I've ever written is not in these books. The most challenging thing I've ever had to write, and I did that. It was like an 11-day writing extravaganza with a fellow writer, and we wrote this heroic crown of sonnets, which is 14 sonnets and a 15th sonnet made up of the first lines of all the 14 before. And that was just 11 days of just pushing yourself out there and just having fun with the form and bouncing ideas off of the other person. So I've actually written two, one with him and one that I wrote by myself. But yeah, those kind of things you do as a challenge. Whether you'd ever do it again, I don't know, but I like to dabble in the different forms, write, write a tanka, write a haiku, write a sonnet, write different forms so that it just keeps you it pushes your boundaries of what you want to write and what you're comfortable with. Otherwise you stay in that in a kind of rut, I find. For
Hmm.
me personally, I find if I don't push myself and try something new, I stay in a rut. So I like to push myself and do something else. And as you say, it may be the scientist meets the meets the artist. I have no idea, but yeah, that's what I do.
I mean, I noticed that you mentioned competitions a lot, that you find yourself involved in whether extravaganzas or the winter park
Winter
paint.
Park paint out, yeah.
Is it that you get your best work done in environments where you have to challenge yourself, or is it that you prefer like maybe a quiet and peaceful setting where you need to reflect, or is it that work just comes, whenever inspiration hits you? How do you get your best writing done?
Mm, I would say normally when it's the kind of the work that hits you when you're in the car and a line comes into your head and it won't go away.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's probably when I write my best, my most heartfelt stuff anyway. But as I say, I love to do the form stuff because it just sometimes just as a challenge, just to prove to myself that that I can do it and do it. I don't want to do it in a half-hearted way or, you know, I want to be able to do it and say, okay, I've accomplished something and feel a pride when I do something, you know. It's like when I did the Peepal Tree Press canticles competition. That was with John Robert Lee, because the canticle is his flute.
Another competition.
Another competition, yeah. And I mean I just do it for fun most of the time. It's not like competitions where I'm getting paid or anything. I'm just doing it literally just to stretch my writing chops. Yeah.
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 Uh, I mean, these competitions, I mean, how do you find out about them? Are you part of a group or a club, or do you just find them when you search online?
There's a website online called allpoetry.com, and they have, I mean, regular every day. I mean, if you could go on there and join 100 contests in a day if you wanted to, if you had the time on your hands to do them. So quite often I'll join something on there. That's where the Winter Park Paint Out one is held. Um, and then just from fellow writers, I mean, John Robert Lee will sometimes send something my way and say, hey, you know. And then we have a writers group in St. Lucia that called 758 Authors, and we meet regularly, and we share works and with each other, and you know, provide critique for each other, which is another way to stretch yourself, because it's good to, you know, you sometimes you can get in your own head about a piece and you get attached to it because it's like
Yeah.
your baby, and
Mm,
sometimes it's good to sit to for somebody to read it and say, hey, I don't understand it, and then you realize sometimes you've missed a step in your own head because you know the story that you're telling, and
mhm.
it just hasn't quite met the mark. And so it's good to get that feedback from somebody else. And that writing group, we meet at least once a month, and it's fabulous to have them around and to bounce ideas off of each other.
I mean, it sounds like, your growth. I can just see how, you're developing as a writer. If it is, challenging yourself, you're surrounding yourself with persons who are able to help you grow and you have a,
Yes.
so whatever your work is, I know that it's good work.
I hope so. I hope people, at least I hope somebody reads it and connects and maybe makes them, you know, feel something, you know, whether it's joy or happiness or, oh, that happened to me too, you know, that kind of feeling. Yeah. Yeah.
How has the reception been? As you mentioned, persons connecting and maybe even giving you feedback, from stuff that you would have published books or even maybe individual poems. Has anyone ever reached out to you and given you feedback along those lines that, I could identify what you have written, I like that you would have done? And if so, were there any memorable situations like that?
Um, I mean, I know my friends, bless them, they're always reading my stuff, and they always give me feedback and tell me what, you know, what they really love. I
Mhm.
mean, I think that's part of putting your stuff out there, like on Instagram, and you get sometimes a random stranger, I mean, saying something to you. I mean, I think probably one for me was maybe this writer who reached out on Instagram, and she's a well-known Instagram poet. And for her to actually leave a comment, you're like, wow, you know, you have so many hundreds of thousands of followers, and for you to actually leave a comment on my poem. So it's the little things sometimes that give you that, okay, wow, I can keep going, and you know, let me keep on writing. Gives you that encouragement to keep going.
Yeah, as you're in these groups and persons are giving you advice on your writing, can you think of maybe maybe three pieces of advice that you may give to a person who may be interested in getting into writing, like poems or sonnets like yourself? What three pieces of advice can you give to someone who's listening to this podcast right now?
I think the main thing is don't be afraid to share your work, right? There's no right or wrong way. The same with I found with art. There's no right or wrong. Somebody will connect with it. Not everybody will, right? And so that's fine too. So don't be afraid to share. I think for many years, I've been writing since I was 16 years old. And for many, 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 many years, never shared anything I wrote. It was, you always feel like it's too personal and it's too, and as I said to you earlier, maybe that's the whole reason for using the whole pseudonym, is that
Mhm.
that can bring you out of your shell, you know, you can write behind the name, and that gives you a little bit of anonymity to keep on going. So don't be afraid to share, that's for sure. Um, don't be afraid to have your work critiqued and take the advice. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to go and completely chop and change what you're doing. It just means take the advice, take what sparks in you, you know, take it to heart, and don't be afraid to edit your work, right? So then go after that, take on board those comments, and you know, look at it with a critical eye. I know, as we're saying, sometimes your work becomes your baby and you don't want to touch it, but don't be afraid to dress it up a little bit. And yeah, and then just write what inspires you. And as I said, I am more of a love and nature poet. I don't generally, occasionally I will like dabble in social political issues. Occasionally I will, but that's not what I write generally. And so sometimes when I write in that vein, it feels a little more forced to me as a writer because that's not what I do. I do it if I'm doing it again to push myself and to expand my writing, but I think you should write what you know. You can't write what you don't know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Uh, I noticed that and you mentioned it before, that where your writings are concerned, you don't do freestyle all the time. You're capable of doing sonnets, haiku, and sometimes you do hybrid between two, maybe more. Uh,
Right.
how would you feel if it is that your writings, as diverse as it is in terms of style, were to be adopted by, let's say, an educational institution to help persons with their reading, writing, and comprehension skills? How would you feel about something like that?
Wow, that would be exciting. I mean, something like that especially in our education system, I think, well, the whole Caribbean, but I mean, St. Lucia in particular. I know these days, the concentration definitely is more in the sciences. And I think, I mean, I think I'm the walking example that the arts and the sciences go together, right? So, I mean, I really think that people should, want to, you know, if you don't want to write and you don't want to get in, just read. Read whatever you can get your hands on and expand your horizons. Yeah, but I mean, if a school wanted to adopt a book of mine to, to look at different forms and look at the works, in and of themselves, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Um, Maybe I'm not too sure if you'll be able to give an answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I know that the present climate that we have, that a challenge that we have is with adults and also children. The challenge that we have is with reading. Uh,
Yes.
Being a writer, being an author, can you think of any advice that you can give to parents who have children to encourage them to read more?
Um, I think the whole point is to read to your children from young. I know I exposed my daughter to books. I mean, very, very, very early on. I mean, a couple of months old. Make it a habit just to read a short book before bed. I think if you take that 2 minutes, that 5 minutes to read something short, and then um, I think my daughter was maybe 3 or 4 and we were on a trip somewhere. I mean, loved books, would bring them to you and make you read them over and over again. I mean, it got to a point at night where it's like another book, another book, and no, it's time to go to bed, that kind of thing. But yeah, read to them and then just make stuff accessible to them, books accessible to them. And then to see when you finally get that spark in their brains that goes, oh my God, I know what that word means myself. I can read it myself. To see
Yeah.
that light bulb go off, that's the wonderful thing. So just start early, just start reading, read them anything, poetry, nursery rhymes, anything. Yeah.
All right. For persons who are interested in getting copies of your books, where can we get them?
Okay, so my books are published on lulu.com. So you can find them on there under my writer's name, which is Virginia Archer, and also on amazon.com, which is again under Virginia Archer. So if you look up Virginia Archer on either of those sites, lulu.com and amazon.com. And then I'm also on Instagram under virginia.archer.poetry. And occasionally I'll throw a piece up there or a piece of art. So people can see my work and get an idea of what I do from that site as well.
All right. You said that the last book that you would have done would have been, don't tell me, don't tell me, don't tell me. I have it written down. It is How to Forget to Breathe. That is it.
Yes.
Do you have any upcoming works?
Yes, during the COVID period, I put together another set of work to self-publish. So I will probably do that probably within the next few months and launch that one, self-publish that one. And then I want to actually put together, as I'm always working, I'm always writing something. I
Mm-hmm.
want to put together something that is a complete set of works that will be sight unseen. Sometimes a lot of my books, I'll add in something that I've thrown up on Instagram or I've written on all poetry or something like that. But I want to write a book from start to finish of just raw works from me and just publish it. Whether I self-publish it or it goes to a publisher, whichever way, just get it out there into the universe.
Okay. Uh, in terms of self-publishing, and I just want to backtrack to that a bit. I mean, as I identified, where that process was concerned, it wasn't as difficult for you as it was for other persons.
Mhm.
A number of authors, I noticed that they do a number of they practice a number of strategies to promote their book, whether it's workshops, etc. Do you think you might engage in any kind of those marketing activities, whether it's workshops or anything else? Let's say even offering courses on self-publishing to promote your work.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't. But as I said, I'm always looking now more for more avenues. As I said, I joined different writing groups. I mean, during COVID, I joined a couple. We have our St. Lucian one that goes. So I'm always open to more avenues to expose myself, which is kind of, as I said, when you've written under a pseudonym for a while, it's actually like rip off the covers and expose yourself for who you are is maybe a little scary. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's always good to put yourself out there and I'm learning that it's good to do that and you know, be proud of what I've done and stand behind my work.
Yeah, I mean, if it's one thing, Virginia, you're very versatile, or Jean. One of the things I like about you is that you constantly challenge yourself. You enter these competitions not for the competition, but to, flex your creative muscles and do that. And I guess
Yeah,
maybe even applying that to other marketing activities, I think you'll do well. I think that you will do well. Uh,
thank you.
but having said that, that pretty much brings us to the end of the interview at this time. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the interaction. I'm really encouraged by your I would have to say your spirit in terms of your growth and your commitment to it. And I'm kind of intrigued as to how creative you are in terms of the person who is the engineer on one hand is also the artist on the other. And it's really great to see those two disciplines or those two mindsets, if you would, come together to give a really interesting product.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, looking forward to your works in 2024 and hearing more about your successes.
Thank you so much, and thank you for doing this interview with me.
Oh, it was my pleasure, and I'm thanking you for being available to be interviewed.
Thank you.
Okay, you take care.
Okay, okay, bye.
Bye. You've been listening to TLC, Tropical Literature Creators. If you've heard something of interest or something you like, reach out to us. Reach out to our authors. Follow us on social media. We look forward to hearing from you.